a couple months ago, had a rendezvous with a music group that I really like. And I'm a conductor and a pianist, and I really enjoy the rendezvous with other really tuned in, tapped in, turned on musicians that are really making a difference. And
logical, isn't it?
what's that?
Logical, isn't it? In terms of how much airtime you give to that. Logical that others who also do that you would find compatibility there. Logical, yeah.
And it was so much so that the high from that was like, there was a time when I never thought I would meet these people, and I had a chance to talk with them a bit and invite them to come to Sacramento for a joint concert type thing. And the high from that was like, oh my God, this is just really, I've not had anything really quite that elevated before.
Don't lose your place in there, but we just want to ask a question for clarification. So the idea of that was pretty wonderful, but once the vibration turned to the idea and the emotion and turned to something more, are you saying it even gets better? In other words, is that what you're saying? Are you saying that the longer you allow the momentum of your desires, then even better that are you telling us that it's more fun to go really fast than slower when you have non-resistance and in the absence of resistance, which happens a lot to those like you who are involved in music and so forth, because you're in non-resistant places, that's why it's all flowing to you. So you stay there quite a bit. So in that absence of resistance, ideas occur to you. Well, at first when those ideas occur, you throw gravel on your trail because they're famous, and how could I do that? And so, but because you spend a lot of time in that non-resistant place, that idea continues to expand, that idea continues to grow, until that idea begins to feel kind of familiar to you. And as it does, you are less resistant about it, because the momentum gets rid of resistance. Don't you find that if there's more momentum, that the resistance is less significant?
Right.
And so then the inspiration to act led to something more, and when you're actually experiencing it, the high that you got from that. Now we want to talk about what that high is. The alignment that I got from alignment, the high that I got from non-resistance. I want to use the terminology so that you understand what you were actually affecting, what you were actually creating. So now, where are you in the story?
Well, and part of it, so I come back and I'm in the midst of putting shows together and things, and I find myself not as high when I'm confronted with all the details that come forth to make these things happen.
Because in the theory, there was nothing to worry about. In the dream, there was no reality to fix. In the idea of it, there was nothing to overcome. But this is what we want to convey to you. There never is anything to overcome. It's a flawed premise. It's from arguing for limitations, practicing those limitations. So we have some questions for you. Which is the path of least resistance? I have all the time in the world to make things the way I want them to be. I'm limited in time.
The first one.
Which is the path of least resistance? I really want to. It's really more important than ever before to get this right. This isn't more important than other things. I always care about how things unfold. Which is the path of least resistance? This matters more, so I'm less capable.
Ooh, yeah, that's.
Or I'm as capable as I've ever been, and if I weren't capable for this, it wouldn't be unfolding. This wouldn't be mine to experience if I were not ready.
I like that a lot.
Isn't it getting more and more obvious about how you throw stuff on your trail?
Yeah.
And it's okay, because those are beliefs that you have held that the new momentum is pointing out. Because when you're going slow, you can navigate around obstacles. When you're going fast, they need to be out of the way.
Yeah.
So, what's the path of least resistance? I'm ready for this, or it would not be. How could this be? I'm not ready for this.
First one.
What-
Now, see, oddly enough, I feel like I'm ready for it because I'm so in tuned and alive.
All right, so which is the path of least resistance? I can do this, but it's going to be hard. This is going to be the most fun thing I've ever done. You get to play it out any way you want. So, because we know you're ready. You're just not ready for it to be easy. Most of you are not ready for things to be easy. Especially big things. Big things shouldn't be easy. Big things should be hard. No. The bigger they are, the easier they ought to be because of the momentum of them, you see. Ooh, that was big.
That was big. That was big. Here's another area where I notice my resistance, let's put it that way. And
it's all over
and
your
I
face.
question, okay, what's that?
It was all over your face. Here's another.
Okay, I'm going to backtrack because we talked about further earlier back in like 20 years ago. I would spend hours at the piano and just practicing, and it felt like inspiration found me.
It did.
And I didn't have to, and now I'm feeling like I'm looking for it rather than.
Let's just use some different words just to break some things loose. I spent hours at the piano practicing, or I spent hours at the piano in the pleasure of the music.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's a difference. I did it for the joy, or I did it for the improvement. So in the beginning, when the stakes are lower, it's just fiddling around, just enjoying it. But then you make the stakes higher as you decide that you're professional, or as you compare yourself with others, or as you start vying for positions, you see. And so resistance. That's why those, and you know it, you hear it, you see the interviews, you hear the interviews of them. The people who are really excelling are those who are having the most enjoyable time doing it. Here's something that is really interesting. We're going to clear something up for all of you, once and for all. So everyone who excels has much more ease and joy in their life than otherwise. Otherwise, they wouldn't be excelling in that way. So somehow they find the magic formula. In most cases, it's easy to say they found a way to please themselves. And they hooked on to their powerful stream and path, and they accomplished mightily. And then the world looks at them, a world who for the most part doesn't understand. And then they tell you a story that isn't real. They tell you how hard they worked because they don't want you to feel bad. They tell you they start emphasizing, oh yeah, I used to be out on that trail, I was working every night, staying in those hotels, hardly had anything to eat, had to eat the bread off the room service tray on the floor. Because they're taking the path of least resistance with you. They know you want what they've got. They know you're not ready to get what they've got. They know you're jealous of what they've got. So they create something that is not true and could not have been true. They emphasize the part that was the least of them in order to explain to you how they got what you want.
Wow.
Don't listen to them. Listen to your own guidance. You do not have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. It defies law, you see. So the sooner you decide to give yourself a break and start enjoying what you're doing, however it takes to do it, and it's way easier. Haven't we established how much easier it is to do over here when it's thought than over here when there's all kinds of things that you're responding to, you see? Esther said the other day, after a series of unwanted things amplified the vibration that she had going on, I'm going to get in a hot air balloon and I'm just going to float away, far away. It just felt so good, the idea of just rising above the details that felt like she could not control. And we say, that's what you got to do. Because when you're trying to wrestle details that you can't control to the ground and kill them, they just get bigger. There's no bottom to it. You put that brush fire out and there's one over there, and you put that one out and there's one over there and you put that one out. That's what feeling like you've got too much to do is all about. That's that feeling of overwhelmment. But when you know the feeling of clicking into it and that power pouring through you.
Well, the weird thing is, like, I'll lead a rehearsal with 80 singers. And I've gotten to where I really rely on Abraham. We get this little thing going on, and I step on the podium, and things come out of my mouth that I don't even know. I didn't even plan on saying
That's
it.
because you're in the receptive mode, and the path of least resistance is occurring to you. And what's of value for those 80 people to receive from you is inspired from that broader point of knowing. You don't need to know the details.
And I totally feel that, and
Yeah.
know that in that particular setting.
Yes.
But
We
when
like
I
where you're going with
step
this.
off the podium,
Yeah. But you see, that's why we really enjoy interacting with artists, because in order for your creativity to flow and for you to really excel, you have to have found the path of least resistance. And we're just saying, you found it relative to your art. You can find it relative to everything else, because it's exactly the same thing. There are people that, relative to something that they've become very good at, if someone wants to criticize them, they will not hear it. They will not have a discussion that detracts or distracts them from the clarity of what they know. And yet they'll talk about all kinds of other negative things that don't have anything to do with that, but that's the protected gem. That's the protected important thing, you see. And what we want you to acknowledge is that it all is precious. Alignment, no matter what the subject, is precious. And it's worth hocus pocus focus. It is. It's
I get
worth
that.
caring about.
okay, so anytime a negative emotion shows up,
Yeah, isn't that great? let's call
Okay.
it. Let's call it what it is.
Okay.
Anytime awareness of resistance is mine.
now where I have gone in the past with that, and it's getting better, is I've done something wrong, or
Oh yeah, well,
there's
yeah, but that's not true, is it?
right.
What's the path of least resistance? Negative emotion is pointing out how stupid I am, or negative emotion is letting me know that this is a better direction.
So regardless of what emotion shows
Esther's
up,
following OnStar, and she doesn't. She goes this way, and OnStar wants her to go that way. She doesn't say, "I'm a failure. I've made a mistake. I don't deserve to ever be guided again." She just gets back on the route. Sometimes it takes a little while because it's kind of hard to tell where it is, but there's no judgment here. There's no wrongdoing. There are just better choices and worse choices. But sometimes you have to make some not so good choices in order to identify what the better choices are. It's all part of the molding it into clay. Molding the clay into being.
okay.
Mostly, what you are feeling and what you are describing, and you can all relate to this, it's jumping in too fast to the action without having done the preliminary vibrational work. It goes back to the thing we talked about earlier. How do you get rid of doubt before it starts? How do you get rid of strong negative momentum? By catching it in earlier stages. How do you enhance alignment? By catching it in early stages. In other words, it really is a sensitivity that you have, and promoting what feels good. But what's at the basis of that is, first you got to accept that it's good for you to feel good. And a lot of you have been convinced otherwise. A lot of you have been convinced it's good for me to feel good while I watch you, but it's not good for you to feel good, because if you feel too good, I might feel bad. In other words, an employer might say, it makes me feel bad when none of you come to work. And you all say, but it made us feel good not to come. And then the employer says, well, I'm glad that you feel good, but I would feel better if you come to work. And if you don't want to come to work, then I will find someone who wants to come to work. I will find someone compatible with what I'm doing. And then you say, oh, that sharpened my path of least resistance. Oh, wait, maybe it does feel better for me to come to work. You're just all sorting it out with each other all of the time. But what trips you up is you're too interested in whether they specifically are coming to work, rather than focused upon the work that you want to be met with a compatible partner. It is our promise to you that when you sift through and find increasing alignment with who you are, so that you're not offering active contradictory vibrations, that the universe will deliver to you, but more important, you will be in the receptive mode to realize it.
And I feel like there are pieces of the pie where I feel like I'm really good at noticing that.
So you want some practical encouragement? listen less to what other people have to say. Trust your own instincts more. You're tuned in, you know. You've got the big picture. Oh, a conductor? Are you kidding? Someone who is the orchestra leader?
Mm-hmm.
So if you listened to each person that has something to say about what they want, they all want you to highlight them. You can't highlight each of them. You have this broader perspective, you see. You're in a position, in very practical terms, to understand how the laws of the universe are working. When you are in alignment with your idea of what you want, you practice that idea until you're able to hold it steadily. The members of your orchestra must find alignment with that powerful pattern that you've presented.